Hi, this is Christy Birchfield, Christian devotional author and speaker, and today, for today's devotional, I wanted to speak with you a little bit about life lessons that we can learn in the area of parenting. So often we take a look at, these kids and what am I going to do with them, and they drive me crazy, or I love them, they're wonderful, but how do we really go about trying to teach them and do with them what God would have us to do? And today we're going to look at this in two parts. And so we're going to start today with the dangers of parenting. We're going to look at parenting from the vantage point of a woman by the name of Rebekah. Now, Rebekah was in the Old Testament. We find her story in Genesis, starting in chapter 25. And it talks about the fact that while she was pregnant with her children, she actually even knew that there was something going on. While she was pregnant, she was having twins. And she went to the Lord and she asked and she prayed and said, "Why am I having such a difficult pregnancy?" And God explained to her, there are two children in your stomach. You are going to be carrying two different nations, and the younger is going to serve the older. And we see that in Genesis 25, verses 22 and 23. Well, then time came, she gave birth. She did in fact have twins, twin boys. And it makes a very interesting statement in Genesis 25, verse 28. And it says, Isaac, her husband, who had a taste for wild game, loved Esau, but Rebekah loved Jacob. Right here you see the beginnings of what can be an incredible danger in the area of parenting. And that's the issue of favoritism. I know a lot of times we'll say, but I love all my children, but I love them differently. And that's great. That's important. Every child has differences and things that are specific to that child, to let them know how, that you love them and that really are meaningful and special to them. And as a parent, we need to know and understand that. Unfortunately, Rebekah took her favoritism a step further than just love. You see, it talks about that even a little bit later, where in chapter 27, we actually find Rebekah plotting against her husband with her son. That's when you've taken favoritism way too far, and it becomes a real danger in parenting. If we allow our children to become something that stand in the way of our relationship with God or our relationship with our spouse, our husband or our wife, we've allowed our relationship with our child to become skewed. You see, in Genesis chapter 27, there's a point where it says, hey, Isaac wants to bless his son. He wants to give his final blessing. It's very important. And Rebekah tells Jacob, says, here, you are going to go get that blessing. You are going to go do this, and we're going to trick your father into getting you that blessing. That's when it reached that point where being deceitful and deceiving others became a pattern. It became something that was, this is what you need to do in order to gain the best end. Well, Jacob learned that lesson really, really well from his mom, Rebekah. And he repeated it multiple times throughout the rest of his life. That became her legacy that she left with her child. And unfortunately, another negative side effect and impact of this is after this happened, Jacob had to run away. Esau, his brother, was so mad he was going to kill him. Jacob had to run away. And by the time Jacob came back and they were able to restore the relationship between the brothers, Rebekah had died. She never saw her son again after he left. These dangers, these things that when we start trying to take him to a point and going so far that we're going to focus only on one child to the detriment of either our spouse or any other children, we've lost sight of what it means to truly be parenting, to truly be leaving a legacy with our children that's going to glorify God. See, the best thing we can do for our children is to help them understand that we love God first and foremost, and that we love our spouse, our husband, our wife, next. Rebekah wasn't honoring God, and she certainly wasn't honoring her husband when she allowed that deceitfulness to play a role in this. Those can be some real dangers in parenting. And as we look at our own life today, what are some things that you need to change about how you address your children, how you utilize your children, and how you show love to your children? You should definitely be doing that in a unique way. Each child is slightly different. But don't allow one child to stand in the way of your relationship with God, your relationship with your spouse, or your relationship with any of your other children. And next week we'll look at some of the great examples of parenting that the Bible has and how we can leave a lasting legacy instead of, like Rebekah, a legacy of deceit. Thank you so much for listening, and continue to live in the world and live out the word. Thanks.